welcome. You know, for me, hear that song, what time it is. It's time for Talk the Ting with Kim. And you know, in this segment is really our discussion segment. We talk about love, we talk about relationships, we talk about health, we talk about finances, we talk about entrepreneurship. Like we try to cover as many topics as possible because just like how we are trying to educate you guys, we're learning as well enough.
Yep.
Trust me, half the time the topics are true. It's stuff I'm personally researching or looking into. I'm like, if I want to know about this, somebody else wants to know about this as well. So, that is always my aim for Talk the Ting with Kim. So just know as well that if you have any suggestions, anything that you want us to do the research on, or even find someone to speak about, feel free to let us know. Go to Funtastic 93 FM, send us a direct message, and we'll check it out. I promise you. All right. So this week is basically a continuation to last week. Last week we were talking about getting money smart, getting to understand money, changing the relationship we have with money, how we deal with debts, how we work on investments, all of those things, financial planning. Listen, it was a wealth of information. So just in case you missed it, just know that every single Talk the Ting with Kim episode is recorded and is shared on our YouTube channel. So now we had one half of the team last week, We had a half of the team, right? But now we have the full team in studio. We have Mr. and Mrs. McDonald. I hope they won't mind that if I call them Jermaine and Renee. Okay, that's fine. From Learn, Grow, Invest, and they're in studio with us today. Can you say good evening to the listeners, please?
Good evening, everyone.
All right, I love it. All right, so guys, as I said, this is a continuation, and our topic for this week is understanding how money affects your relationship. And for me, I thought this is a very important conversation because I don't think when we're dating or we're thinking about settling down, we're not thinking about how the person perceives money. We're not saying their financial status, so we're not going to the whole, you have to have money, and if you're not a this or if you're not a that or she not a this. We're not going into all of that, right? But you need to know how the person sees money. If the person values saving, if the person is just a spendthrift, if the person don't value money and just wants it in them hand, it's up to go spend. That's just their relationship with money, right? So I feel it's a conversation that needs to happen because countless times we've seen where marriages end over money. Can't believe that? Over money. Right? So I realize that we have been taught to be very secretive with money. You're not going in the workplace, we're told not to even share what pay, like it's a big secret, all the way to the same jumping up. Yeah. But I shouldn't tell you, say. I would probably, that's what I'm saying. If I feel like if many of us spoke to our coworkers, we would understand, say, it's not as level as we think it is, right? But because it's taught to be so taboo, we all say, I have to keep the secret, right? But it's not really benefiting us. But now we want this conversation to benefit us when it comes to relationships. So I want to know, firstly, how long have you guys been married? Let's even get into that first. Because we not want no sort of experience and history in this thing, So how long you guys been married?
We've been together for 20 years, married for 14. This is our 15th year.
Oh.
So basically 6 years before you guys married,
Listen.
So we knew each other fairly well.
Listen. All right. And then when would you say money came up in your, whether in dating or marriage?
It should have come up in dating.
No, maybe not enough people keep it hush hush till marriage,
It comes in. I remember, one of the biggest relationships issues when it comes to money usually gets exposed when you're planning a wedding.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Who are going to pay for what? Too much you have put, what you're not. So,
But I think, so for us, in terms of when the money conversation started, it was very early because we started dating as teenagers.
Yeah.
So we were growing together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So we knew the foundations. I knew
in grades in a school and all these things.
yes, actually. So we knew the foundations. We knew where each other was coming from.
Yeah.
And we built together. So it wasn't a situation of, let me come into his life and figure it out. No.
Yeah.
We built together.
Well, what I want to know then is that was it an uncomfortable, was it okay, you guys have that friendship, so it was easy to transition into that discussion? Or was it that, okay, we had such a good friendship, but we've never really touched on such important topics? How was that transition?
So we thought we spoke about everything.
Uh-huh.
But the truth is, I think money is one of those conversations you don't
skip over,
think
probably.
you really need to have it.
Yeah.
You kind of skip over
Meaning,
most
you kind of just assume that it's obvious where you are and where you stand.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, we spoke about the type of husband, type of wife we want, where we want to live, how many kids. We spoke about all of that.
the
Yeah.
regular stuff. Yeah.
But I don't think we had a direct conversation about money.
How much
until
we're earning.
after we were married. Well, we knew we weren't earning anything when we started dating.
Yeah, we were broke.
So that was zero. That was zero.
Two things I've noticed here that are probably game changers for people nowadays. If some of these people nowadays dating would know their partner's grades in school, they might probably
Made different decisions.
and also if they probably knew that they were broke, would have been a different decision. Okay.
Yeah, because literally when we started, it would have been our parents supporting us.
Yeah.
And then when I started working, he knew everything I was earning.
So you started working before him?
Well, he was working.
I was running my own business.
Why, sir? One of the rough spots.
It is very rough.
Yeah.
I did not have steady income
Right.
until we were dating for almost 10 years.
Right.
So I was the one who was trying to make it.
You're working on something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which means that actually made us, we had a very kind of unstable financial standing, which was one of the things she asked for very early after we got married. She was like, well, I thought when we got married, we wouldn't have to worry about certain things. That's when it really came out that security was important and having things being stable was important. But to me, when you start a business, especially young, you figure at some point you'll make it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a plan, it's a vision, and definitely
That's why you're doing it.
Yeah.
it should work if you put your
But
best into it. Yeah.
that business failed.
Okay.
So it didn't work. We closed it in debt. And last week, when I mentioned we were in debt, it was partly due to the business.
Oh.
The business was a great contributor to that debt position.
Yeah, I mean, once you mention that one party isn't consistent as it relates, so you don't have, even both persons, if you don't have balanced income, it's going to be hard to plan. And when that doesn't come in, you probably have to go borrow or, make
And
up
that in
somewhere.
itself was just a big strain on our marriage.
Yeah.
That business not doing well
Yeah.
got us to the point in our relationship where we were like, this might not work out.
Yeah.
We may not be doing this thing.
So you want to believe in it.
Right.
And
yeah.
you want to
And I
believe in
did.
yourself.
And I
Those
would have.
conversations were hard.
Yeah,
Like,
it's gotta be.
we used to have these conversations at the end of each year.
Yeah.
She's like, she wanted to gently say,
Yeah.
are you going to still be broke or are you going to actually start dating someone? Like that was.
But
that
she
was,
said it with love, I'm
She
sure.
said it with love. She's
With
like,
love.
so how do you think you did this? How is everything? What can I look forward to next year?
Because here's the thing. I was also contributing to that business.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So from my salary, it was going into the business and also my time. So
Yeah.
I was working 12-hour shifts and then leaving from that to go to the office.
But you want to get it rolling.
Because I want to be there. I'm a supportive wife, right? And I was there before we even got married.
Yeah.
So from day one, I'd be traveling with him to get the work done, etc. And so for me, after a while, it started to take a toll. It's just like, I can't do this anymore. I'm exhausted. I can't take care of myself, and like I wasn't happy with a lot of things, and so it caused a lot of strain. And then every time I would ask him about it, then for him it felt like, oh, you're not supporting me.
Which I can understand, because sometimes when you're the one that is working on it, anything that's not a supportive statement feels like an attack.
Even if
Even
it's a status check.
Yeah, it could just be like, hey, I just want to know what's the update. All of a sudden, you don't believe in me?
Yeah.
You don't believe in me?
Well, you see me here work.
Exactly.
What more update? I mean,
So I get that.
Kim, you're a movie watcher like myself. The early vibes of Acrimony. You've seen that movie.
The
man working on the dream. No, but
Yes,
it's
it's
gonna
true.
happen. The lady, she wants to believe in him. But then at some point, sometimes you're gonna be like, yo, you need to give that up now and make me see if we can get a steady income. You have love and then you have the money. We need the money.
It's essential. We can't pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So that's why this topic was important. So I'm glad that we did our verification test. Let's ensure so you guys know, never just call two people and say, hey, we needed to come impersonate people that know them thing. They actually have been through it, years of experience, and I'm sure still learning even this day, right? So we want to get now into the question, so we can learn as well from your experiences as well as the listeners. So I want to start with question number 1. How can financial differences between partners impact their romantic relationship? And what are some common challenges that couples face? Because you also do premarital counseling as well in your business. So also I'd love, I can remind you after, what are some of the common challenges that couples face as well when it comes to managing money together? So let's go back to part 1. How can financial differences between partners impact their romantic relationship?
So, everything impacts your romantic relationship, first of all. Money is one of those things that it's sometimes can be very hard to talk about. And the truth is, we may not realize it's a problem. We may just start to find ourselves in certain habits, right? So, like, for example, one of the big things we used to do is that in order for Renee to feel like she's seeing what she's working for, she would just book a trip, right? When it's anniversary, when it's that kind of thing, she should feel justified in maybe maxing out the credit card.
Because I've been working all year.
Exactly. And that was always a big issue because I would say, well, we can't afford that. But we weren't ever able to work it out. So I would agree to
you
go on the trip.
You want a happy wife.
Exactly. Yeah. And then when we're driving back from the trip, it would be an argument.
Yeah.
Because you don't look on the statement now.
Exactly.
First you go, it's going to pay now.
It's that room upgrade and the spa treatment in.
So that's one of the main problems we see. It's just hard to have the conversation about money where usually you're not going to earn the same thing.
Yeah.
Usually it's hard for the person making less to talk to the person who's making more. And if that gap is too wide, it can really impact it worse for some men if they're the ones earning less, because most men are taught to feel like they should be
the provider.
Exactly. So when you're not earning the same thing, and worse, it's if it's a gap like 50 grand to 300,000, that's gonna make you feel like
inferior.
She can't just put me out when she's ready and that kind of vibe. But
did it reach
ever get to that point?
Well, no. But it was.
I'm not that girl.
Jermaine, you have to give thanks, sir.
Listen, I'm gracious for every day I have a roof over my head and I got food, I got my milk in my bowl, and
no, but I mean, I understand that at times she might probably, express, her feelings in, a different manner. But based on the interaction here, sir, you would have probably get that different conversation from other women out there.
No, so what she did, she never said anything, but I think it showed in her action. Meaning she would know that I wouldn't necessarily agree, but she's like, hey, I understand how you feel, but so those are the kind of things that would happen where she would make some decisions that we didn't necessarily agree on.
But she's trying,
and that's what caused tension. And then on the same side, on the other side, I would do similar things where I'd make decisions in the business, like take loans and do things that we didn't necessarily agree on, that caused problems. So it's almost this independence as it relates to money, which doesn't work well when you're
in a relationship. I love that you point that out. So can you highlight, like, what are some of the common challenges that couples tend to face when it comes to managing money together?
Just talking about it in the first place, being honest about it. There are lots of taboo things in our culture about finance, about money.
Yeah.
Persons don't want to talk about the debt that they have. They don't want to talk about how much they're actually earning, as you mentioned earlier. They don't want to talk about it. We're not trained to talk about it. They don't want to admit what they don't know how to do. So in terms of not knowing how to budget properly, or how to manage your finances, how to manage your credit card, things like that. People don't want to talk about it, but you have to have the uncomfortable conversation. So the biggest challenge is to actually get to the point where both parties are being fully honest about what their financial standing is and what their financial expectations are as they move forward in the relationship.
And the next part I'd say is understanding each person's money personality. Meaning one person could be for investment and they want to invest in the stock market. The other person may not care for it. So imagine now if one person is investing in the stock market, maybe they lost some money. The other person's not going to be supportive because they'll be like, you're wasting your money.
Yeah, once it
I
goes
don't understand
adversely,
it.
it's going to be a big thing. But I didn't agree to that.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So it's really now being able to understand that for you to accomplish your mutual goals, you have to agree on the path to get there. So it's really kind of accepting who you are is who you are. So there's not necessarily any bad ways.
Yeah.
There are bad habits, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have a bad money personality. You just need to, as I said last week, understand who you are, why you do things, etc.
And I think, well, I was gonna ask a question before I give my feedback on that. Do you think there's a particular timeline in the relationship that these discussions should happen? So when you say as soon as possible, like date one?
No.
So are you saying we just meet and we talk about this?
Well, if it's date one, you can actually save yourself from unnecessary date 2 and 3.
So I was gonna say as soon as possible,
But you know,
because
everybody know your business.
Because I'll tell you why. Because it even determines where you go to eat.
Yeah, that's true.
So that's why I think as soon as possible, because you may be expecting a certain restaurant that costs $15,000 for a date. I can only afford juicy beef or tasty, and so my budget is $2,000.
Yeah.
So even that in itself can say a lot about, because a lot of persons try to impress.
And they put put themselves out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't date any fancy place. Go to somewhere you know the person.
But to each their own, because persons have preferences, maybe something else. Exactly.
But
It's a personal opinion there.
But naturally, the depth of the conversation will increase as you get
to know each other more.
Right, as you get further in the relationship. You're not going to start with, I have $2 million in debt right now.
You're not going to start with that. I feel like the relationship is going to go further.
I probably just wear it on my shirt.
But you certainly should not marry unless you know
all that standing.
Exactly.
Like what you mean, like bank accounts, assets, we do that check for marriage.
Before marriage. Because when you get married, you know if one person is in debt, it becomes our debt.
Yeah.
Okay, sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because imagine if you get married, you already know to buy a house together, and you heard that the person has student loan debt that you didn't know about, and they've had it for like 5 years.
Yeah.
You're gonna feel betrayed.
That
you went into marriage not knowing what was happening.
Yeah,
exactly.
Okay. That's fair. And I think one important thing to add to what you guys have said so far is that, yes, understanding each other's money personality is good, but then you also have to give room for that give and take, where you have to give room for that person to be that person, because one can be a saver, one can be a spender. You have to sort of give room to say, okay, that's what makes you peaceful. It may not necessarily in my eyes, but you say, you're allowed 3 purchases per year, whatever your rules are. You create something, because that's something that I can say personally I'm experiencing. I'm more of a let's have experiences, right? Not that we're gonna experience all day every day, but I think it's important to do so. You can't have all the money put on,
can budget it. This is our fun.
Exactly.
That was a game changer for our budget when we allowed a personal spending. I don't use it, but it was a great move for her because it made her feel less guilty.
Yeah, I might want to use some of yours since
she used mine.
He's just like, here, babe, go ahead.
Yeah. Because I actually do know a couple that does this as well when they get paid. There's a budget for each of them per month. That no questions asked. That's just your amount. Do whatever you wish, and it works.
And that took years after seeing us exceed the budget every month
to
figure that part out.
And so I'm just like, instead of us exceeding the budget, here's X amount. Once it's within that threshold, it's no problem.
It's your business.
And we also agreed on a spending limit. If something exceeded a certain amount, we'll talk about it.
Right.
But if it's below that, we said, okay, you have that discretion. We trust each other.
We trust because that's why we're a couple. I trust your judgment and stuff. I love that.
Listen,
that took years, by the way. That wasn't like we started out.
Whether or not, I mean, some people don't even get
to that point. That's true.
As soon as they bump heads, I'm gone.
All of a sudden. And then I want to know now, are there specific financial topics or decisions? Because I know you said if it's past a certain threshold, you give room for, okay, if it's within this, then I trust you. I know what you're going to do is right. But do you think there are specific financial topics or decisions that couples should prioritize?
I think they're all important.
Yeah.
and different stages of the relationship, you may need to prioritize certain
Different things.
At the very least. So, for example, if you're dating, planning to be married, you want to talk about things like debt. You want to talk about what some of your long-term goals are. If you have children, you want to talk about things like insurance, things about
Schooling.
Where do you want them to go to school? I grew up in primary school. She grew up in prep school. We have different perspectives as to where children should go to school. That's the kind of thing that matters. So the different stages will tell you what's important, but it's an ongoing conversation.
The most important thing is that the two of you agree on what is important, right? And once you both say, okay, these are the most important things, you need to discuss it. I think regardless of what we're talking about, agreement becomes the most important thing.
So what happens if you don't?
I was about to ask that, because agreement won't always be present.
What's the next
Get a third
party?
So you can, or
draw near people,
or if you agree that the husband is the head of the household,
you might want to lean to the husband's decision. Okay, that's fair enough.
And I was gonna say as well, in some relationships we find that maybe the woman is better with
money management,
better with money.
So you play to the strength of the relationship.
So the wise thing would be, if there's a imbalance, you move towards the person who would better have the money management skill. And people know yourself. If you know you are not the one who handles money well, nobody just keep up in their pride and make the relationship go down because the money going down. Just understand is that I find it strange, but you have to remind people that relationships are two persons and you guys are both on the same team.
Exactly.
Because them relationship nowadays, you know, left me this. I'm like, we're together in this.
So there's an issue that I'll raise here that I think is important. If you feel the need to have like a hidden account, or you have funds that the other person don't know about, you really need to assess the trust
that you have in your relationship.
Right.
Because I was thinking about that, because everybody is not really all for probably, let's say, joint accounts. Where you're saying at least let the person know that I have my own account.
Exactly. So when we work with couples, we ask them to choose. We're not going to tell you that you have to. We found it works best for us if we have certain accounts that we share. It's just easier that way, especially as we're talking about managing the home. But and we have visibility of everything, because we can't know where we're going unless we know whether or not we can afford something or not. So we have everything in the same place, but we don't share every single account. Right?
Meaning with both names aren't on every single account.
But you can see everything that's happening.
So we know how much money is in our total account.
So you can so everything
because if anything happens to me and she needs to access funds, it's good to know the bank, the account number, and things like that, because to me a lot of that money may be lost if persons don't even know it's
true.
That's why the bank is celebrating. They have about $1 billion unaccounted for, because either the person has passed away or no longer in Jamaica.
Exactly.
That's interesting. I love that you touched on that, because as I said, all sports are hush hush, and it's just this big taboo thing, and persons feel like, okay, even in the marriage we need to keep a bit of something to ourselves in the event of. But as you said, that just highlights that you probably need to analyze your level of trust.
Right. I've heard the story of the lady having her partner pay the rent for the house that she already owned.
I heard that story. I heard that story.
I thought that was funny. I thought that was funny.
That's definitely going to be a one-sided relationship. Some imbalance is there, some level of lack of trust is there. So that might not be successful.
So imagine that if you're married and you find that out. Like you're gonna need a lot of counseling.
That is true. I don't know if there's a marriage after that.
It just poses
something just hard to come back from, you know. Whereas if it's 10 years and I pay that
money. It depends, right? If he's paying the money and she puts it in an investment, money is still there. I don't know. I was trying to find a silver lining.
If only that's good,
Alright guys, so I know it's a very insightful conversation so far, but we do have to go close to the break, but don't worry, we got to be right back with some more questions to find out how to understand how to manage money in our relationships. All right, so we'll be right back.